Hello, 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 everyone. I am blessed to be here with the one and only Sean Nicole. And Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. How about yourself?
I am great. Oh, I love that book. Okay. Sean, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you know, I'm ShonNicole, the owner and founder of Essence of a Queen LLC, where I am here and our purpose and mission is to purpose to shift the dynamics of the lives of people that are feeling overwhelmed and want to move into their overflow. I am a disabled Army veteran, a mother of three, and with my youngest being on the autism spectrum. And that's who I am, amongst other things.
Wow, mother of three. That must be amazing. I can't imagine having more than one.
Fix this lighting, girl.
Got it?
Yeah, it has been it's been challenging, the ups and downs because I was a teen mom. I had my first child when I was 17, and so I have evolved a lot since then. But yeah, three beautiful babies. Most people actually thought when I was pregnant with my son that I was a first time mom.
Wow. So, let me get a little bit more. I think that we need to talk today basically about your son. Can you tell me a little bit about him?
Oh, well, King is a 6-year old. He is on the autism spectrum. He also has a rare genetic disorder called SATB-T2, also known as the glass syndrome, um, where it affects your intellectual abilities, your body functions, your gross motor, fine motor, and things of that nature. It can have an effect on his bones. And we recently found out that he has had actual seizure activity, which is one of the things that they told us when we found out about SATB2, that he could potentially have seizures. So, yeah, that, and he only has one functioning kidney.
Wow. With all of those diagnoses, how did you handle it when you first heard the diagnosis of autism for him? How did you handle that?
Well, I know the very first time we went to the doctor to find out about that, his dad went with me, and we were at the developmental pediatrician, and he just did a lot of talking to us, asking us questions, and then all of a sudden he was like, "Yes, he's on the autism spectrum," and we're like, "What do you mean?" And me, I had a lot of conversations in my head, whereas his dad is like, "How you gonna tell us that when you ain't even really looked at him? You glanced at him, what kind of tests do you do? Blah blah blah." So, and in his asking, just with his mannerism and stuff, I knew he wasn't really upset. He was just passionate, like, "What's going on with my kid? How you gonna say this about my kid and you haven't done anything?" I'm wanting him to like calm down, bring it down some so that we can get some understanding. And so it was like I had mixed emotions, mixed feelings going on because I wanted him to calm down, but I'm breaking apart inside because I'm like, what do I do now? What does this mean? What does this look like? But I felt I had nobody I could ask that because dad was already up here. And
Mhm.
so we walked away from that appointment. I remember walking to the train station just feeling broken and like alone, like I can't talk to anybody. Who do I talk to about this? Like I didn't feel like his dad was in a headspace that I could be totally vulnerable. Like I needed some strength at the time. And in hindsight, so did he. But at that time, I couldn't see past anything. But I got to take care of this kid the majority of the time. Like I need some strength.
Yeah, I can understand that. I kind of had the same situation with Amory's dad. He was he was kind of, it is what it is. We're just gonna, handle it. And I'm going, nah, it's a little bit more than what it is. We need to know what it is. We need to know. So I understand where you're coming from, where you didn't really know what to do, you didn't know how to do. Um, did the doctors offer anything that would help with this situation?
Actually, no, not really. The
Mm.
best thing about it was when his dad was asking those questions like, isn't it more testing? Do you need to do blood work? Blah blah blah. In New York, I was in a program where I actually had, I like to call her, we had a personal assistant. Anytime I needed any kind of appointment, I could just let her know. She took care of everything. So she actually came, was with us at that appointment. And when he said those words, she was like, well, actually, at my organization, we can do ADOS testing. And I'm like, what's that? So we were able to get a second opinion based upon some actual physical type testing that would be done for King at a later date, because we had already waited about 6 to 8 months just to get that particular appointment with the developmental pediatrician. So although I felt broken and alone and weak, it still was not such a hard blow because I was already dealing with other diagnoses before that diagnosis. So it was like, because I was about 7 months pregnant when I found out that eventually he would only have one functioning kidney because he had polycystic kidney. So that diagnosis, like I'm by myself at the doctor's office and living in a shelter, taking the train back and forth. And I literally felt I could not walk. I was just crying and I had to call my dad. And the chatter in my head was, how do I tell this man that's about to have his first baby that our son only gonna have one kidney? And my
Mm.
dad had to talk me through it. And he's like, you just gonna tell him, and one way or the other, you're gonna love that baby regardless. He gonna be all right. People live with one kidney. It's okay. Just find out what they're saying. But I was hyperventilating and I'm like, I don't know. It was just too much. So
Mhm.
to get that and to find out, about the cleft palate, that was totally different. I could not research anything about it without breaking out crying, feeling like my life is over.
Mm.
But his dad would research stuff and he would try to come and tell me stuff. And I'm like, I can't listen to that. I can't. He's like, you got to. No, I don't. um, so it was a sigh of relief to know. So I was just telling my sister Victoria about, hearing it and having to go through the acceptance phase was challenging. However, I had a friend that I met through birthing classes and when I became a dancing through pregnancy instructor that had created a group for moms raising children on the spectrum. And she wanted me to be a part of it because my son wasn't talking. And I kept telling her, I'm
Mm.
like, why do I need to be in this group? My son don't have autism. He just don't talk. And I can laugh now because I was serious. I'm like, what I'm going in there with them women for? Like, what I'm gonna say? I don't want to say the wrong thing. And mind you,
Mhm.
I would say some stuff, and she was like, "Listen, you can't say it like that because they sensitive." I'm like, "Well, what am I don't know. I'm just saying what comes to mind." But it made it like a sigh of relief because after King had his third repair and having a different surgeon, he said to me after at the post op appointment, he said, something else is going on here because he really should be attempting to make words, forming his lips, and something. We need to do genetics testing. So I was like, okay, because I'm walking around telling people, oh, he fine, it's nature versus nurture.
Mhm.
All kids don't learn at the same rate, let go and allow God. It is
Yep.
kind of like Warren. It is what it is. Who set that benchmark anyway? Who's truth is
Exactly.
that? Um, Because he was lining up stuff. Now, granted, Dad knew, he was like, something just ain't right. And I'm like, boy, it's nature versus nurture. And he gonna do it when he get ready. But to hear the doctor say something else is really going on here, we need to do further testing. I was like, okay. And I was able to breathe, but I still was not expecting to hear the words autism. And so when we did the genetics, well, we did the testing with the developmental pediatrician. And while we were waiting for the genetics testing appointment, when we went to that appointment, because some doctor's appointment, when his dad would come, it would be kind of frustrating because I'm like, he was there in his own way. But in hindsight, being there in his own way, it seemed to me you're there for your son, but you're not there as my support when we should have been there to support one another. But we both had to grow into certain areas of our lives. So at the genetics appointment, when they confirmed, we don't know how the cleft came, but what we do see is this SATB2, and there's no genetic indicators on Dad's side that would indicate that's where autism is stemming from. We both looked at each other and was like, oh my God, we got one of the X-Men. And we just laughed. That was the best doctor's visit to get some kind of diagnosis because we both were able to laugh about it. And, the doctor walked in and was like, what's you laughing at? We was like, we just think we have one of the mutants from the X-Men. That's all. He got superpowers. So,
And
but
he
yeah.
truly does.
Yeah, he does. He really does.
He truly does. Sean, that is actually amazing because I'm thinking about all of these multiple diagnoses that both of our babies have and how getting one diagnosis after another help to make you be able to get through the autism diagnosis. I got the autism diagnosis early in my diagnosis stage, so it was harder for me. But did you have when King was born? Did you have these dreams and all these aspirations of King's life and what it was going to be like to have this boy baby that you so desperately wanted after those girls that kind of got discombobulated because of any of these diagnoses in your head?
I would, in full transparency, no. My I was going through so much at that time. I couldn't even begin to imagine anything for King or what his life would be like. It was more, I was focusing more on the relationship and building that family, having that family unit, being able, because like I said, I was a single mom and a teen mom, and it was just to be reunited with someone that you've always had love for and saw yourself being with, and now you're gonna have a baby. It was tough because Dad has his own story, and it was challenging. So we were dealing with relationship dynamics, and so the only thing I saw is him playing basketball with his dad. That's it. That's as far as my mind could go, and what life would be like to finally raise my child with the daddy every day.
Wow. And he say playing basketball with his daddy. You know what I think about. Wait a minute. Girl, there are some people on here. Dina, Stacy, Hendrix, Dr. Allie,
Hello,
hello.
everyone.
Mary. Thank you guys for coming in. Oh, let me put this one on the screen. Sean, Hendrix says, our diagnosis came through school. Can you talk more about the testing and what the name is again? Mike has trisomy 18 gene in his family line. His niece has a cleft lip.
Okay, so that I'm glad she asked that because now when King was born, I noticed that his chin looked smaller than a regular chin. And I would bring that up to the doctor and like, oh, it's just his anatomy. But as his mom, I'm like, this just don't look right for real. Cause I knew someone whose daughter was, I think she might have been 12 and had to get this surgery done for braces because her chin, she had the chin of a 5-year old. So I learned that my son actually has craniofacial abnormalities because of the cleft palate and because of it's a manifestation of his SATB2. So I don't know what genetics testing that they did. I just know it was genetics testing. But as far as the second diagnosis about the autism, it was called an ADOS testing, ADOS.
Okay. Um, Sean, you have, as you were just talking about, been through so much with King and um, relationship issues. From the moment that you got all of the diagnoses of the one kidney, the cleft palate, the, as I call it, soprano, alto, tenor, bass two, SATB2, um, autism, how have your feelings changed over these past 2 years watching King progress? And as I've known you, I've seen so much progression over the last 2 years. How do you feel about all of this stuff now?
I'm excited. I'm still like, nature versus nurture. I'm like, with the help of fighting to get him certain services or whatever, because I always feel like he need to be around more kids because he's the only child. Um, it helped, and the things that I was doing naturally helped. So whatever we were doing at home, when the professionals came in, they kept doing it and doing it a little differently so that things could manifest and become how he is today. Like, I'm so proud of him. I'll never forget, working on him using utensils like that. That was a lot of work. And I remember from another business endeavor that I was doing, I had went on a business trip and I came back in a weekend. His dad had got him to feed himself with the spoon.
That is amazing. It's just, we're still working with that on with AIM. So it's amazing watching him be able to do it. It makes my heart leap every time I see him feeding himself.
Mine
And
too.
Mary says, how old was he when you received the diagnosis? I'm assuming she's talking about the autism diagnosis, but you could give them all of them if you'd like.
Okay, with polycystic kidney, he was in vitro, so I was about 7 months pregnant. The cleft palate, we found out when he was almost 4 months old, so we left the hospital feeding him from a Doppler because I wanted to breastfeed, so I was giving him breast milk through a Doppler. And then the autism came when he was about two and a half, three, and right around the same time, then we got the SATB2. So we got the autism in April. Matter of fact, it was around, I want to say April 4th. And then we got SATB2 in June.
Okay. And his epilepsy diagnosis was at
That was
6.
just, yep, 6.
Okay. Um, what what has King's life done to progress your life as Sean Nicole?
Oh, wow. So I call him my miracle baby because after Iraq, I was diagnosed with PTSD, um, panic attacks, and anxiety attacks, and I had to be on all this medication. And I was scaring my children, my daughters at the time, and didn't even know. And one day, and I would just be so out of it, having to take all this medication. And one day, I remember saying to God, I don't want to have to be dependent on this medication for the rest of my life. And King was the solution to that. Because when I found out about that, I had to stop and I had to learn how to fight daily in the spirit and physically to keep my mind from just being all over the place. And as terrifying as it was, I had no choice because I couldn't use anything. So I had to find ways to cope. I had to dig into my tool bag with things that I was already learning in therapy and just fight harder. Um, then through the group that my friend had created, that's where I was introduced to another mom, my sister Dina, that's like, listen, because I vented in there. It's like I did not, although I left that appointment when the doctor said autism, feeling broken, I couldn't allow myself to feel. I'm like, I gotta be strong or I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna lose my mind. But one day, y'all, I just couldn't. And I went in that group because it was our safe space. And I just let them have it. And Dina reached out to me. Y'all excuse the tears, but it's not sad tears, it's just another release. But Dina reached out to me and said, call me now. And I had an issue with trusting people. But when she said, call me now, I just called. And she worked me through that moment. And that's when she said, I need you to follow this other lady in the group, Dr. Allie. And so I started looking at her stuff and I was like, why you want me to follow this woman? Her son older than mine. But that was the autism mom strategist at the time, you know? And I'm like, she ain't telling me nothing for me. Cause my son, he 3. Her son, such. She's like, Sean, I wasn't in receptive mode to receive the blessings and the overflow that Dr. Allie was sharing with the masses at that time. But Dina kept pushing me, sis, listen, if you get it now, you'll know what's coming or what to expect. It may or may not happen, but at least you'll have some information because you just shared with me all the other things they caught you off guard. I just need you to follow her and just listen, please. And so I did. And I now can fight from a vantage point. I had to understand and realize that I have to first forgive myself and let go of things that served me no purpose, and learn that I wasn't alone and that there's power in your ask and just working on your own personal healing and growth and going through the process.
That is truly amazing. Um, just hearing your story brings back my story to my mind, and it is amazing that we have to really forgive ourselves. We don't even realize that that's who we are so upset with at times, but it's really about forgiving yourself and knowing you're doing everything you possibly can. So guess what? It's time to let go and let God. But this life led you into the life that you're living now. Tell me about ShonNicole and King now. What's going on in ShonNicole's life that King kind of birthed?
Girl, oh baby. It's like I have evolved into the person that I was always supposed to be. Um, I was able to find my purpose again. For a long time, like I had just lost so much sight of myself. I've always been into business and entrepreneurship, but I felt like once getting the diagnosis of PTSD and trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do, taking guns into my job and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I just let it all go. I forgot who I was and where I wanted to be. Wasn't doing anything. My son's father said to me one time, like, you don't have to let that diagnosis rule your life. You can reinvent yourself. I didn't know what he was talking about, but he planted little seeds too along the way. So I just started with that personal development. I had to get physical weight and mental weight off of me to begin to bloom again. That's why I like the lotus flower. Like through the murkiest of murky places, once it blooms. Hey, Siobhan, it's a beautiful flower. And some people are always like, I seen you as the butterfly. You and you spread your wings and fly, just learning forgiveness, forgiving myself, releasing stuff, learning how to manage my time even better. Because y'all used to be late for everything all the time, didn't even care. And I think a lot of that came from, being in the military. You always got to be on time. So now I'm not in the military. I get there when I get there. But we got to value our time. Like it's an
Yes.
energy and you got to respect it and you got to respect other people's time. So, it's just been a blessing in disguise to get back to being more of me and being that businesswoman and just helping others even through my mess and learning that in my mess there's a message.
Well, tell me about energy goes where energy flows.
Hmm. Well, so I had to go on my own spiritual journey and connect in other ways than what I have been taught. And I learned that, everything is energy. Everything is energy. It cannot be created nor destroyed, but you can tap into it. And through different personal development sessions, it's like, I'll say for me, to put a time on something, if I didn't do it in that time frame, I felt defeated. I didn't like schedules or none of that because of backlash from being in corporate America. But if you just focus where you're going to put your energy right now, that's where it's going to go. Don't think about the number and create those segmented experiences. You can get a lot of things done. So I just created a journal to, break your stuff down into 90-day segment experiences. Break your goals down. Because I heard about vision boards and all this stuff, never really had done one. So it's also an introduction into creating a vision board and a plan for yourself. So you're going to break those things down by the month and by the quarter. We're going to do it in 90-day increments. Because what we focus on, that's what we bring about.
So, where can people get this great planner that I refuse to unwrap, y'all, by the way?
They can get the planner at https semicolon // essenceofaqueen.info to read a little bit more about me and everything that I have going on and see a little bit of my journey. You can go to ShonNicole.net.
It's .net.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm sorry, I had it wrong. Let me straighten that out. Okay. So, Sean, you told us about the different diagnoses of King. You told us about your life with him as a young child. You told us about your vision for what you saw him doing. But what I need you to end this with is telling us what he did this past weekend that you let me get to see. That was a vision that you saw earlier in your life with him. And tell me where you plan to go from here and how people can get in touch with ShonNicole.
So we had a surprise visit from his dad, and my cousin, which is like my sister, had got King a basketball goal for Christmas that I couldn't figure out how to put together. So they put it together, taking turns, all of the things that sons and fathers do. And they went outside and they played basketball. King was doing well with following directions, taking turns. And he even passed the ball when dad said, pass. Well, dad had to change his words to throw the ball. So I did that. That did manifest into my reality, and it just took some time. for everybody to get comfortable, get to understand and know King a little bit more. And where we're going all the way. The sky is the limit. You know, not even the sky is the limit. Like anything that we want to have, we can manifest it into our now. As long as we stay positive with it, stay on that high vibrational frequency, whatever you want, you can have. You can have. You just got to believe it and trust and know that everything is always working out for you. King is making so many great progresses. Um, I'm amazed at things that he can do. He amazes me every day. So it's learning his more of his strengths and not focusing on any other deficits, but just building the strength. And we work on the deficits, but see the beauty in where he is. So we going all the way.
That is so amazing, Sean. I want to thank everyone who has come out and listened to us and talked to us and kept us talking about different things, even gave us topics. Thank you so very much. You guys just know that you are created of greatness, you were created by greatness, and you were created for greatness. And now it's time for you to just get up and be great. Sean, thank you so much for joining me today. You know I love you. Peace and, as they say, peace and hair grease. Love y'all. Bye bye.
Bye.